Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for 2024. I hope you had a good holiday break, whatever you did. Mine was okay. Spent a lot of time playing video games and also found it very hard to make this video in terms of I really couldn't be bothered to record today. Thankfully, I asked my boss if I worked today, could I have tomorrow off? And he said yes, so that's nice. And today, what I wanted to do to start fresh for the new year is dig up some video content and drama from the end of last year, because that's the best way to go forward. But no, seriously, I've wanted to make this video for quite a while, and why I waited so long is I wanted to see if there was any more fallout, because this video isn't necessarily about the James Somerton Bomber Harris drama. It's really just about internet villains and mainly internet main characters. So if you guys aren't familiar, the way I've seen this word used is on Twitter, where you don't want to be the Twitter main character of the day, which is someone who puts out maybe a crazy tweet about feral hogs or something, right? And that's the Twitter main character, but that slowly disappears. No one really gets remembered for being the Twitter main character. But you do get remembered for being the internet main character, and of course James Somerton has been the internet main character over the last month or so. But you have someone like Gerard the Completionist. Earlier last year you had Illuminati as well, and you have various people who become the internet main character or the internet villains. What I wanted to do in this video is, using the video Bomber Harris made about this, is kind of just talk about internet main characters, forgiveness, and how far people should take it. Because what I want to get across in this video is, I think the reaction sometimes to leftist video essayists making these videos in good faith emboldens a certain section of the internet to use it as justification to just harass and hate on someone forever. Now, it's not saying a lot of the people that we're going to talk about don't deserve a massive backlash, and also don't deserve their careers ending on the internet for what they've done, because I think they do. But as we're going to look at with Filip Miucin, there seems to be no time limit on this, in that people will still go and harass you 5 years later, even if you don't really have a public presence anymore. And what I want to talk about is this kind of court of public opinion that we have when someone does something wrong, and also contrast that with how somehow with plagiarism and these two people, James Somerton and maybe Filip Miucin as well, how there seems to be a disproportionate effect on their own career compared to someone like, I don't know, Jake Paul, Logan Paul, XQC. People, in my opinion, who either do similar stuff, like content stealing, like XQC, or they do worse stuff, like Logan Paul with his scams, or even someone like maybe the Completionist, and even people in the video like Internet Historian. And basically what you have is, when you have an audience backing you up no matter what, you're not going to face the consequences. But when you have a certain audience who won't do that, either because they are principled leftists, like some James Somerton fans, or there's not enough people to back you up, like Filip Miucin, and then you become internet main character, internet villain #1. So I want to talk about all of that today, and just the general stuff. Support me on Patreon, check out my Instagram, check out my Twitter if you want to keep up with my work or support my work. And let's get into the video. So I think most of you guys, if you watch left-wing YouTube, you know what I'm talking about at this point. I see my own analytics. I know most of you watched this video that Bomber Harris made about plagiarism. Now, this video currently sits at 12 million views, and basically, if you haven't watched the whole thing, I watched the whole thing a couple of weeks ago. It basically runs down a whole host of YouTube plagiarists, including Filip Miucin, including Illuminati, including Internet Historian, and including surprise guest James Somerton, who became basically the focus of the video right at the end. Now, I haven't been that familiar with Bomber Harris's content in the past. My only real interaction with him recently is that, someone who works for him called me a mean name on Twitter because of an old meme I shared that someone sent to me of a Virgin versus Chad meme, and I said that, Bomber Harris should put down the avocado toast because he's a lazy millennial who doesn't seem concerned on making many videos. Because as we all know, I'm very serious when I say stuff about millennials and avocado toast. But anyway, in terms of the video, I thought it was good. It raised a lot of good points, and I think it's led to a good conversation about plagiarism on YouTube. But I have certain problems with it, which we're going to talk about a tiny bit later, in terms of maybe even including Filip Miucin in this video at all. But just because I see this comment already, I think James Somerton got what was coming to him to an extent. I totally believe, you know, his forfeit for doing this terrible plagiarism, ripping off both prominent and lesser known queer writers, he deserves basically to never have a YouTube presence again. And that's essentially what this video did. It ensures he pretty much will never release content again. And also, pretty clear from his non-apology, he's not actually that sorry, and he's basically trying to take no responsibility, acting like someone else plagiarized it and he just read it. So again, it's a guy who is not taking responsibility, is not saying sorry, very, very hard to sympathize with. And yes, I do believe that when you are a YouTuber and when you're presenting arguments like this, there is that degree of trust, and if you've shattered it, you're never going to get it back. So he can try and come back one day, but I don't think that will be successful. But what got me thinking about the reaction to this video is I was just like, the backlash against this guy is just so insane. It feels like I've never seen a backlash against a YouTuber as massive as this. And I was like, compared to some other YouTubers, what did this guy actually do? Yeah, sure, plagiarism is terrible. But what happens is people take it way too far, where if this guy actually successfully did something terrible to himself, how many people would say that's justified? And as people on the left, we do believe that people can be rehabilitated and reformed, and they're not totally just the sins of their past, and there is a pathway to some sort of redemption. But as we're going to see in the video, it seems like to most of the internet, that's just not the case. And I'm not blaming people like Bomber Harris and others because they're very aware of this, which is nice to see. So the extent of this is something I guess Bomber Harris could have never anticipated, in that you had mainstream media picking up on this and writing about it, Polygon putting his video essay on plagiarism at the top of its best video essays list. And thankfully, if you go on the subreddit, people are calling out behavior which is trying to basically completely boil down the video to content. And what I mean by that is everything in the video is boiled down to entertainment. Like, James Somerton is not a person who's done bad things. He is now a character in like some weird TV show that you must obsess over. But like I said, thankfully the subreddit has called it out, because you get weird posts like this. Has anyone attempted to document James's tweets? The Wayback Machine has 8,000 links associated with his Twitter account. Is there any effort to archive and sort them? It could lead to the discovery of plagiarism. And thankfully, the top voted comment was why. The whole point of the video was to one and done him. That's why it was carefully structured. Bomber Harris was clear to set out his premise, establish his bi-credentials so James couldn't pull a "they are coming after us," and then systematically dismantle the overwhelming majority of his work with a bulletproof and airtight case. Why do you need more evidence? What purpose does it serve? And I think that also sums up my thoughts completely as well. Like I said, he deserves to have no presence on YouTube. He did do a really bad thing. He stole people's content, presented it as his own, presented himself as some sort of, you know, thought leader on this stuff. And yeah, in some ways he deserves what he got. But at the same time, as you're seeing, people start taking this to another level. And as no doubt you actually saw on your social media feeds, it just loses all sense of proportion. Because to me and to people in Bomber Harris's subreddit, that's enough. His YouTube channel is dead. His career on the internet is dead. No need to obsess over this guy. I saw other people going through like student films he made when he was like a teenager. Again, it becomes just content. This guy gets so dehumanized by the video, no one sees him as a person anymore. And like I said, if you come from a left-wing point of view, that becomes a problem. Because as much as I don't like him, I don't think he's sorry, down the line, you have to think there is a path to redemption for this guy, and there is a path for us to accept that maybe he could be sorry, right? Not saying he has to become everyone's favourite YouTuber in 5 or 10 years' time, but as we're going to see with what happened with Filip Miucin, people don't forgive and people don't forget, and people don't move on when you become the internet main character. Now, Bomber Harris is also fully aware of this as well, which is nice to see. So on an interview with Vulture by Rebecca Alter, she asked him, is there guilt that comes with doing such a thorough and complete dragging? Bomber Harris saying, absolutely, I don't like assuming that I'm going to destroy someone's life. That feels self-aggrandizing. But making this video, I thought about the damage it would do. I'm not happy. I wish I could make this and then not have to deal with the fact that I did this. I feel very responsible for my actions. As a YouTuber, you hit a certain level of size where it occurs to you that someone can be horrible to you on the internet, and if you acknowledge it, the people who see it might respond to that person and do more harm than you ever received. You have to learn to accept the burden of not being able to fight back against certain people and accusations. There was this sense of, is James big enough that this is worth talking about? And for a long time the answer was no, until it kept becoming more clear that he'd profited so much of the people who are less successful than him that it made it more of a real issue. But I do feel guilt. I wish I didn't have to make it, but ultimately one person is responsible for making this video. So yeah, nice to see, like, he's very self-aware. The subreddit have called out lots of people who've become overly obsessed with James Somerton beyond what's happened to him, beyond his terrible apology, and beyond him removing all his videos and stuff like that. And I feel that's a healthy mindset to have, because this stuff needed to be called out, but you don't have to go beyond that when the damage is completely done. Like, this guy cannot have a YouTube career anymore. He's totally done in this space. And that feels like justice to me personally. Like, I'm not someone who had my work plagiarized by him. I totally get if he ripped off your work, maybe you feel like there has to be more to come. But personally, I feel like the world isn't perfect. The best outcome is just he's done. And I think that's all that needs to be said, because what can happen is, like I said, if he successfully does something terrible to himself, and he suggested that he tried to, that's not justice in my opinion. That is not the punishment that fits the crime. Because people in our society have done terrible things. They've gone to prison in our broken prison system that doesn't even focus on rehabilitation. And through some miracles, sometimes they do come out rehabilitated. They change their life. They dedicate their lives to doing good things, right? And these are people who've done far worse stuff than James Somerton, but because he's in the public eye, because he's in the internet, it's unforgivable. But also, as Bomber Harris outlined, he is a small creator. And because he was appealing to a left-wing audience who have like higher standards for this stuff and have, you know, in theory more morals and ethics when it comes to this stuff, they all turned against him, rightfully so. But in the same video, you have Internet Historian, and Bomber Harris proved that this guy also does this, and he uploaded new videos and people still like them, and people don't really care. Because first of all, he has a right-wing audience who don't care as much about this stuff. And also, when people just like certain creators a lot and they reach that level of fame, all criticism just falls on deaf ears. And you'll see this no matter who it is. Criticism of any creator, even left-wing creators, falls on deaf ears when you have that strong parasocial relationship that is so big, it can't really be destroyed. And that's why you have James Somerton or Filip Miucin in the past. That's why the reaction is so disproportionate compared to other people, like Baby or Logan Pauls, or like loads of different people. Or even when we talk about content thieves, and I mentioned XQC, he literally just steals people's videos and uploads himself watching them, makes loads of money off them. And in my mind, that is basically no better. I mean, you could argue that the plagiarism is worse because he's passing it off as his own work. But at the same time, XQC does this in a similar way and makes more money and is still very successful and popular, and no amount of video essays will ever take him down. So it is that power dynamic there as well. And now when I get to my main criticism of the Bomber Harris video, is that I don't think Filip Miucin should have been in it. Because it's just dragging up like very, very old drama. And what happens is, this guy is probably very much moved on with his life. We don't know what type of person he is now. Maybe he's very, very sorry. Like, he never appeared to be sorry. Just same with James Somerton, but maybe he has. And, you know, we go onto his YouTube channel. He tried to start again, but, you know, when you do stuff like this, plagiarize other YouTubers' videos, you don't have to be forgiven, and that's totally fair enough. But what happens is this type of stuff, is that his last video was uploaded on September 2021. So over 2 years ago. But if I go on the comments right now, because Bomber Harris's video brought all of his stuff up again, 5 years later, might I add, you get comments like this. This guy needs to delete his YouTube channel. Your mother that must be very proud. Hey man, just say you should probably take the hint and call it a day on your life. Never heard of you before. Props to Hbomb for making you famous. Hbomber, smiley face. Who else is here from Hbomb? Hbomberguy gave you an amazing shout out. Filip the fraud. Great vid. Who'd you steal from this time? Hbomberguy gave your channel a great shout out. Filip. Who's here from Hbomberguy? Yo, you got the shout out from Hbomberguy. You ruined your career and reputation with disgusting, entitled, narcissistic behaviour, and now you'll never find success in this industry again. Hello, Hbomberguy viewers. So, the other creators in Bomber Harris's video had all done plagiarism, like, very recently. But Filip had done it 5 years ago. And also, his channel is tiny, he's irrelevant, he was even pretty irrelevant at the time, right? He worked for IGN, which made him relevant. But I just feel like digging all this up again shows you that for a lot of people, this internet main character, this internet villain, it never dies. Like, they feel vindicated to harass this guy forever. And like I said, you see in the video, he seems unapologetic, just like James Somerton, but at the same time, his crime was plagiarism. And I feel like his punishment fit that crime in that his career online was destroyed. And we don't need to take it beyond that, because what happens now? What, in 6 years' time, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years' time, people keep saying this stuff to him. They keep going after him because of what he did so long ago. And, you know, it goes beyond that, because you go on his Instagram account, and where he does sometimes post these days, he posts his wedding photos. And the comments have stuff like this. It's possible that she's an escort. Wouldn't surprise me. Everything this dude presents to the public is fabricated and mostly likely stolen. Probably plagiarized the wedding vows. Everyone has a buyer, I guess. Did you steal that girl too? So there's more comments about this stuff, but those are the ones from the Bomber Harris video. And that's what I was kind of thinking about when I was watching it. I was like, do we need to dig this up again when the channel sizes are so disproportionate? Like, I know the point he was making, because Filip Miucin is such a great case study of like the exact same thing James Somerton did. They both plagiarized excessively. They both took no accountability. They both uploaded terrible apology videos where they basically acted like they did nothing wrong. So I totally get it. You think it's fair game, but it's also 5 years later now. 5 years later, where his career was effectively ruined doing the thing he wanted to do, games journalism, YouTube and stuff. And I feel like that's punishment enough in the court of public opinion. But what happens is, and this is not strictly on him, but people take these videos as just content in that Filip is not a real person. Filip is a character in the online space. He's an eternal villain now. So when Bomber Harris makes this video, it gives people in their minds the right to go harass this guy again. 5 years later, saying terrible stuff about this guy's wife, going after him personally. And I'm pretty sure none of these people are leftists, but they are saying, oh, I came from Hbomberguy's video. He gave you a nice shout out and I came straight here from that video. I'm going to harass you because I saw this video of something you did 5 years ago. And it's not like he has a social media presence anymore, right? He tried to upload some videos 2 and a bit years ago and then stopped. That's enough. People need to learn to give it a rest, especially because it's so disproportionate. Like I said, how many people who are still really famous have done far worse stuff? In the YouTube sphere as well, have done far worse stuff. Because like I said, Filip is not internet historian. He doesn't have any fans backing him up. He's a very, very easy target. It's very low-hanging fruit. And what I was getting at with the leftist angle is we believe in some sort of redemption. We believe in some sort of rehabilitation. At the very least, I believe that this guy got the punishment and people should leave him alone. He should just live his life, right? Live his life, get on with it. From other profiles I checked out, you know, he's a dad and stuff. Maybe he's like an absolutely amazing father, amazing husband, amazing person. But because he made like a terrible mistake and didn't really apologize 5 years ago, then he must be eternally damned because he became an easy target on the internet for YouTube drama channels. And I don't want people to get confused that I don't think these people should have repercussions for what they do. I do feel they should, but I feel like it's very easy to see that the repercussion to plagiarism is you shatter the trust, you shatter your reputation, and by that, your career is essentially over in this specific space. Same with James Somerton. You're never going to make a comeback. And essentially, this is what these people are going to be forever known as. Plagiarist scum. The worst people imaginable. They've done the worst thing imaginable, but have they really? And like I said, it's all disproportionate. It's all based on someone's fave creator, Bomber Harris, making a video about someone else, and now they hate them. And that was a meme going around. It was like me after watching a Bomber Harris video about someone I've never heard of, then saying they, they absolutely hate them. And that's because the video was good at making these arguments, right? And maybe it's because so much terrible stuff is happening right now in the world, like with Palestine and just, even just climate change, that I have this sense of proportion where I can say that James Somerton deserves what he got in his YouTube career ending, but I think that's just where we should leave it, because there's so much more things to focus on, and there's also so many other terrible YouTubers out there to focus my anger towards, rather than this one guy who has a channel now that is only like double the size of mine, right? And I don't consider myself a big creator, and at his peak he had a channel about 3 times the size of mine. And even for left-wing creators, he wasn't especially big either, right? If this guy was like Illuminati size and was posting through it and was suing people for, speaking up against how badly he's treating them at work, that's another thing. But on the surface, all these two people have done, Filip and James Somerton, is just straight up ripping people off, plagiarism. I've heard no allegations about anything else. It's not like the Illuminati situation. Had heard no allegations about them being like generally terrible people. It's just this very specific thing, which I think they suffered appropriate consequences for in losing their channel. And I think because of the nature of social media, they're forever going to suffer disproportionate consequences no matter how much time passes. So it's 5 years for Filip Miucin, right? That's a relatively far smaller case. James Somerton, they'll never forget. He could do something in 20 years' time, could be very, very sorry, could actually atone. Maybe he could even rectify the situation financially, and people would still continually go after him. And again, I don't think there's any like blame that goes around really with mainly left-wing people doing this, because I feel like we have a sense of proportion. I feel like we believe in some sort of redemption, some sort of proportional justice for these things. But I guess when you're just putting it out there and you're a much larger creator, this is always going to be the unintended effect, which thankfully Bomber Harris realised. And I guess this is what I'll end it on, because I enjoy a good righteous pile-on social media, right? When the completionist is, getting exposed for all this stuff with his charity, like I enjoy that in the moment, right? Because I enjoy a bit of righteous internet justice, people being exposed for being terrible people. I get it, right? But I guess what I would tell other people, especially people maybe younger who have a very unhealthy parasocial relationship with their favourite streamer or content creator, hopefully not me, is that when someone makes a video like Bomber Harris, when someone makes a video like whoever, think about how you act in that moment and try and think about these terrible people as actual people, not characters. Because life is long, people change, people can atone, which we should believe in, and dragging this on for potentially half a decade plus, who does that help? Like what good is that for society? And again, when it's something just straight up stealing, plagiarism and stuff, does that really fit the crime? Harassment for half a decade, and then if anyone ever brings it up, more people feel it's their responsibility to do this as well. Personally, I don't think it's healthy. Not healthy personally for people to do this, but also just not a healthy culture. Because if we can see they've suffered consequences, that's it. James Somerton, Filip Miucin, done. So it should be done for you as well. You shouldn't continue it forever. You shouldn't be going through their whole life. You shouldn't be digging up student films they made like a decade ago because of what? You're being obsessive with them. I think internet main characters should become like Twitter main characters, where you get that very, very high concentration of attention and then everyone moves on. Because that's what happens on Twitter largely. But it seems to not happen sometimes with these YouTube things. And I guess that is all I wanted to say on this. So yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I just wanted to share my feelings on this situation. Now, we've had some time since everything happened. And yeah, if you made it this far, thank you for watching.